Hi, welcome to the Hidden Hues of Motherhood, the space where real mothers tell real stories. I'm Lulu, a creator, an empathic light worker, a mother of two, plus a fur baby, and your host. Here, we speak the truth about motherhood, the magical, the messy, and everything in between. If you've ever felt alone in your journey, you're in the right place. Let's heal together, one story at a time. Before I became a mother, life was chaotic. I had just ended a long-term relationship, nearly 6 years, with my daughter Estella's father, Johnny. We were on completely different paths near the end. And though the breakup was hard, it was also necessary for both of us. I had lost pieces of myself in that relationship, and after it ended, I didn't even know where to begin to find them again. And then I found out I was pregnant. It was unexpected. But after the shock, it felt like something I really needed. Becoming a mother had always been a dream of mine, even from when I was a little girl. So yes, I was petrified, but I was also very happy. I knew this baby was meant for me. Un bebé siempre es una bendición. A baby is always a blessing, is what my mother said to me when I told her, and I knew she was right. I had a full-time job, a good amount of savings, a village that was made up of two phenomenally supportive and loving parents, my best friend and brother, Alan, and his girlfriend at the time, family both here in the United States and in Ecuador, where I'm from, and friends who rallied to show me I would not be doing this alone. But everyone has different experiences when it comes to dedicating your life to being a parent. Johnny needed some time to process the shock of it all. And he needed to figure out what he would be able to bring to the table, emotionally, physically, and in all ways. And I completely understood and respected that he needed that time to figure it out. Looking back now, I'm so glad that he did take that time, because when he did come around later, he was in a better place to take on the role of dad. What followed after I found out I was pregnant was one of the most difficult seasons of my life. Very early into my pregnancy, about a week after I found out I was pregnant, or week 6, I began experiencing symptoms so severe that I couldn't even keep my saliva down. From the time I found out I was pregnant, where I was experiencing normal morning sickness, to a week and a half later, I was admitted to the hospital for excessive vomiting and nausea. I was eventually able to identify what I was experiencing as Hyperemesis Gravidarum, a rare and extreme form of morning sickness. But finding the medical support or any OBGYN to believe me, let alone help me, was nearly impossible. I lost over 65 pounds, if you can believe that. I was in and out of the hospital for all 9 months of my pregnancy. I was severely malnourished, bedridden, and even had to leave my job and go on disability about 5 months into the pregnancy. But my daughter, Estella, Mia, she was thriving. She was always a week ahead of all of her milestones. It was an absolute miracle. And even though I was going through my own personal hell with HG, I also felt an immense love, not just for my baby, but for me. I eventually found an incredible doctor who changed everything when I was around 5 months pregnant. Dr. Hoffman. He believed in me. He didn't fully understand the condition that I had, but he took a chance on treating me. I believe with all my heart that Estella and I, and Lucas, my second baby, wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. That pregnancy broke me, and it rebuilt me. It was a humbling spiritual detox of sadness, the chaos, the emotional trauma I had experienced before I got pregnant. It brought me back to myself. In many ways, it brought me back to life, to be honest. Even through the sickness, I kept my mind and soul in a place of peace because I knew whatever I felt, my baby would feel too. I just kept saying to myself over and over again, mind over matter, mind over matter. It was so rough. Stella's birth was both the best and the worst day of my life. It was euphoric and transformative, but it was also traumatic and terrifying. That duality is something I've come to recognize as a core truth of motherhood, holding both the light and the dark at once. After her birth, everything I had held in for those 9 months just came crashing down. The grief, the confusion, the fear, the pressure of being a single mom. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression, and I was prepared to get the help that I needed even before Stella was born. I joined a postpartum mothers therapy group. I went to individual therapy with 2 separate therapists, anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. I leaned into healing for myself and for Estella. 4 months later, January of 2022, I went back to work in the city. And thanks to my incredible mom, who quit her job to take care of Estella, I was able to rebuild and provide for us. And then the world came crashing down. COVID hit. Suddenly, I was home again. But this time, I got to witness every single one of Estella's milestones. Her first feedings, her first steps, her first words, everything I thought that I'd miss. That same year, in March, I met my now husband, Jared, through Match.com. Crazy, right? My work friend had convinced me to get back on the horse, as she said, and since we were in shutdown, I had no choice but to meet people via online. Would you believe it if I told you that the profile wasn't even up for 2 hours before I matched with Jared? Crazy. Fate, if you ask me. Around the same time, Johnny also re-entered the picture and took steps to becoming part of Estella's life. Johnny and I had tough conversations, really tough conversations. And we went through mediation amicably and figured out how to co-parent in a way where we kept Estella at the center. It was not easy, but it was so worth it. My relationship with Jared and his relationship with Estella quickly and beautifully developed starting May when he met my family in person for the first time. Jared was our missing piece, and he helped and encouraged that we all, Johnny included, thrive for Estella's sake. Fast forward, Jared and I dated for 1 year before we got engaged and then married in September 2021. Woohoo! COVID wedding. And after careful thought and preparation, because we knew what was coming, we decided to try for another baby. I knew I would get hyperemesis again. So I prepared by gaining 60 pounds before trying to conceive. Yeah, 60 pounds. With Dr. Hoffman, we got a care team in place, and as expected, the symptoms hit again at 6 weeks. But this time, we were ready. I had Dr. Hoffman in my corner from day one. I had at-home care, the right support, and most importantly, I had my love, a husband who stood by me through the whole thing. And the cherry on top was that my husband is a family medicine doctor, so that was amazing. I had my Estella Mia, who gave me a lot of strength, my wonderful parents who did not hesitate to help me with anything and everything, and our new addition to the family at the time was our pup, Bruno, who became my emotional support rock during my pregnancy. Lucas was born in August 2023, a week before Stella's 4th birthday. And while my second pregnancy was just as physically challenging as my first, I seemed to be a little bit more emotionally grounded. However, I did have postpartum depression again. But this time, it came with postpartum rage. And that's something that I want to talk about in this podcast because I don't think it's talked about enough, how motherhood and mental health are not black and white. There are so many shades of it, and so much of it goes unspoken. And then we come to now, the present. I'm about 19 months postpartum, and we've made the decision to close this chapter of growing our family. My body's been through enough. My spirit's been through enough too. I'm proud of the life that we've built. A blended, beautiful, chaotic, loving home with 2 incredible kids, 3 devoted parents, and 1 very special pup. Over the past year and a half, I've been on a roller coaster of a new journey, one of healing and rediscovery. I've been working on my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. I've been pouring love into myself the same way that I've been pouring it into my children. And I've realized how important it is to have spaces where mothers can be seen, not just as moms, but as women, as humans. That's why I created this podcast, because I am a mother, but I'm also a singer, a creator, an empath, a light worker, and I want to hold space for the stories, for healing, for truth, because you deserve that too. After everything that I've been through, the pregnancies, the healing, the therapy, the depression, the joy, the grief, the rebuilding, I realized something was missing in the conversations around motherhood. There's a lot of noise out there, but not a lot of truth. Not the kind that sits in your chest and makes you say, yes, that's so me. I felt so alone in some of the hardest moments of my motherhood journey. And what saved me every single time was storytelling. sitting across from another mom, telling her my stories, or listening to someone brave enough to speak their truth and realizing I wasn't the only one. I started this podcast because I wanted a space where we didn't have to pretend, a space where we could talk about the hard stuff, the softness, the joy, the magic of it all, and also the rage, the guilt, the shame, the fear, all of it. A space where moms feel seen and heard, held, and where they can heal. This podcast is for the women who have lost themselves and are trying to find their way back. For the moms who are carrying more than anyone knows. For the women who are healing generational trauma while feeding a baby at 3 a.m. This is for us. So, if you're still here, thank you. Thank you for holding space for my story, for bearing witness to the mess, the miracles, the healing, and the heartbreak that brought me to this moment. The Hidden Hues of Motherhood isn't just a podcast. It's a sanctuary, a place where we bring the unseen into the light and we heal from it with light, where no story is too heavy, too honest, or too tender to be told. I hope this becomes a space where you feel less alone, more understood, and deeply reminded of your strength. Because your story matters. And I can't wait to hear it. So, until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think.